So the Andes virus is one of the 20 hantaviruses that may have infections in humans, but it is a very serious virus. Mortality with this virus is typically in the 30 to 40%.
This week we've seen a developing investigation into a cluster, a very unusual cluster of cases of a certain type of hantavirus. It's called an Andes virus. It's a hantavirus from South America. And it's the one type of hantavirus that scientists suspect may be able to spread from person to person.
World Health Organization, WHO, update confirming that the Andes strain of hantavirus, ANDV, can spread person to person via respiratory droplets or aerosols in human breath, marking a notable development in its epidemiology beyond traditional rodent-born zoonotic transmission. What they still don't fully understand is why this strain alone has that ability. In this video, we'll explore the science, the outbreaks, the studies, and the lingering questions. This is grounded in peer-reviewed research, not speculation. If you enjoy clear, science-based explanations of fascinating health topics, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's dive in. Let's start with the established rule. Hantaviruses are zoonotic, meaning rodent-born primarily. Humans typically become infected by inhaling aerosolized particles from the urine, feces, or saliva of infected rodents. For decades, the CDC, WHO, and textbooks have stated clearly that person-to-person transmission has not been reported for hantaviruses, despite extensive study. There are roughly 20 to 30 hantavirus species capable of causing human disease. Old World strains often cause hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome. New World strains, like those in the Americas, cause hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, which is a severe flooding of the lungs that can lead to respiratory failure and shock. The rule held across continents and dozens of outbreaks, until one exception emerged. That exception is Andes virus. First identified in 1995 in Argentina's Patagonia region. Its primary host is the long-tailed pygmy rice rat. The virus causes HPS with a fatality rate around 40% in many outbreaks. But what truly distinguishes it is the pattern of secondary cases with no rodent exposure, only contact with sick humans. The first evidence. The Andes virus first caught scientists' attention during an outbreak in El Bolson, Argentina, in 1995 to 1996. As investigators traced the cases, they noticed something unusual. Several people became infected despite having no known contact with rodents. That raised an important question. Could the virus be spreading between humans? A few years later, in 1998, researchers found the answer. By comparing viral genetic sequences from connected cases, they discovered they were virtually identical, providing strong evidence that the virus had passed directly from one person to another. This discovery was both groundbreaking and concerning. To understand why, consider the Sin Nombre virus, which is the most common hantavirus in North America and the one behind the famous Four Corners outbreak in 1993. It causes the same severe lung disease and is genetically very similar to the Andes virus. But despite decades of research and thousands of documented cases, the Sin Nombre virus has never been conclusively shown to spread from one person to another. The Andes virus remains the only known hantavirus with confirmed human-to-human transmission, making it a fascinating and somewhat unsettling exception. So why is the Andes virus different? That's the big mystery. Despite being closely related to other hantaviruses, it's the only one that has consistently shown clear evidence of person-to-person transmission. Over the years, multiple studies and systematic reviews have reached the same conclusion. Andes virus remains the lone exception in the hantavirus family, the Epuyén outbreak. Now fast forward to November 2018 in Epuyén, a small town in Patagonia with a population of just around 3,000 people. The outbreak began with a single individual who was likely infected through contact with rodents. Before realizing they were sick, they attended a large social gathering, and that one event set off a chain of infections. What followed became the largest and most thoroughly documented person-to-person hantavirus outbreak ever recorded. A landmark study published in the New England Journal of Medicine revealed just how extraordinary this outbreak was. In total, 34 people were infected, and 11 lost their lives. Surprisingly, most of the transmission could be traced back to just 3 symptomatic individuals who attended crowded social events. Early in the outbreak, each infected person was passing the virus to more than 2 others on average, a spread rate that briefly exceeded that of seasonal flu. Once health officials introduced quarantine measures and intensive contact tracing, that number quickly fell below 1, bringing the outbreak under control. Genetic analysis added another fascinating piece to the puzzle. Samples from 27 patients showed the virus was almost identical to the strain responsible for the El Bolson outbreak 22 years earlier. Researchers also found that patients with higher viral loads and signs of liver injury were more likely to transmit the virus, and perhaps most importantly, the vast majority of secondary cases had no contact with rodents at all. Their only known risk factor was close, prolonged contact with an infected person. It's important to understand that this wasn't the kind of effortless airborne spread seen with diseases like measles. Instead, the evidence suggests the virus was transmitted through close contact with infected people, likely via respiratory droplets, tiny particles released during coughing, or exposure to body fluids, particularly during the early symptomatic stage when fever first appears. A 2020 study provided further clues. Using electron microscopy, researchers detected viral particles in lung tissue and salivary glands, lending support to the idea that breathing, coughing, and saliva may play a role in transmission. Fortunately, public health measures proved effective. Argentine authorities responded with strict quarantine protocols and extensive contact tracing, successfully breaking the chain of transmission. But even after the outbreak was contained, one major question remained. Why can the Andes virus do what no other hantavirus has been shown to do? Why only Andes? Here's where the story gets unsettling. Scientists have sequenced ANDV extensively. They've compared it to Sin Nombre and other strains, yet no clear, unique mutation fully explains the human-to-human capability. Some research has identified candidate changes: 3 amino acid substitutions in one study, 2 in the non-structural protein, 1 in the glycoprotein. Present in clades linked to person-to-person spread. These might affect immune evasion or cell attachment, but functional studies are limited, and the overall mechanism remains largely unknown. A Syrian hamster model reinforces the uniqueness. ANDV transmits between hamsters without rodent excreta, while other hantaviruses do not. Yet even here, the precise why eludes full explanation. Virology's predictive frameworks assume that transmissibility leaves detectable molecular fingerprints in receptor binding or replication machinery. ANDV challenges that. It reveals a gap. A virus can cross into interpersonal spread without triggering the expected alarms. This isn't a failure of science, it's a reminder that nature can be subtler than our models. As one analysis put it, the tools confirm the phenomenon, but haven't yet penetrated its central logic. Risks and recent developments. After exposure, symptoms can take anywhere from 1 to 6 weeks to appear. At first, it feels a lot like the flu. Fever, muscle aches, and headaches, but in severe cases, the illness can suddenly worsen, causing fluid to build up in the lungs and making it difficult to breathe. There's no widely available vaccine or specific antiviral treatment, so patients rely on intensive supportive care. The good news is that the Andes virus doesn't spread easily. Transmission usually requires close, prolonged contact, such as between family members, caregivers, or intimate partners. Casual contact is not considered a major risk, and infections among healthcare workers are rare when proper protective equipment is used. A recent example came in 2026 when a cluster of cases linked to the cruise ship MV Hondius drew international attention. Genetic analysis showed that the outbreak began with a single spillover infection and was followed by human-to-human transmission. The cases were successfully contained, but the incident demonstrated how quickly this unusual virus can travel across borders in an interconnected world. To be clear, the Andes virus isn't the next pandemic waiting to happen. It spreads much less efficiently than viruses like influenza or measles, and outbreaks can usually be controlled with familiar public health measures such as isolation, contact tracing, and reducing exposure to infected rodents. What makes it important isn't the scale of the threat, it's what it teaches us. For years, hantaviruses were considered strictly animal-to-human infections. Andes virus showed that this boundary isn't always fixed. Under the right conditions, a virus can surprise us. As climate change alters rodent habitats and global travel continues to connect distant regions, understanding these rare exceptions becomes even more important. Researchers are still studying the virus through genetic sequencing, epidemiological modeling, and laboratory experiments to uncover exactly what makes it unique. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. Decades of research have confirmed that the Andes strain is the only hantavirus known to spread between humans. We know that it happens. We know how it happens, but we still don't fully understand why. This strain and no other developed that ability. What are your thoughts on this mystery? Could other viruses evolve in similar ways? Let us know in the comments. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more science-based deep dives. Thanks for watching.